Okay, I went and moved another box, and we will continue here. These are a bunch of movies that I got together and a lot on eBay several years ago. I was tracking down only a couple of key pieces. I came away with some pretty good titles. This is Fright Night. Pretty cool. I like that, with evil on the front, but I would have preferred the version that had the house with the vampire above it, but still pretty cool. Here's another second release. Hellraiser has some random person's name on the back of it. Cool movie and everything like that, but still, this collector's edition does have some extra things on it. Has a television commercial preview, interview with Clive Barker, interview with Andrew Robinson, interview with Claire Higgins, interview with Ashley Lawrence. So, it does have a few extras, which are kind of surprising for VHS, as many people know. Here's Thinner. I actually kind of like this flick. This is another Republic Pictures release, surprisingly. Former rental, too. This is one of the movies I was wanting to get that's very hard to find on any format, especially DVDs, very expensive. But The Guardian, I don't know, until they release this on Blu-ray or something like that, I think it's going to be pretty expensive. Saw this in theaters when I was in junior high. Interesting, kind of strange offbeat movie that people don't talk about very much. But yes, The Guardian. That's one I wanted. This is the other key thing in this set that I really wanted, which was Body Bags. Another one by Republic Pictures. It's pretty hard to find on DVD. I think you might be able to get this on DVD for $40-50, which to me is very high, but not as high as it used to be. But classic John Carpenter kind of anthology horror thing that was brought to, I think, Showtime. And I think it only exists in full screen aspect because it was made for television. Somebody could probably correct me on that if you know for sure. Night Flyer, pretty interesting flick based on Stephen King's short story. It's kind of odd how they did this. I remember reading this first and then watching it. Either way, kind of interesting. I don't think this is in print anymore. I could be wrong. Here's an old release of Poltergeist 2, which looks pretty cool in this old MGA UA United Artists box set, but it's got silver at the top instead of like white. But yes, Poltergeist 2. Here's a very beat up copy, former rental of Requiem for a Dream, which is a good movie. Darren Aronofsky. Basically, this was his first big film, but Black Swan, of course, has probably eclipsed that since then. Here's Terminator 2, Judgment Day. I've had this on Laserdisc since it released. Dolly Dearest, this was just a random one that was in there. I would assume this kind of reminds me of like a Charles Band film, but I think the thing I remember about this the most is this has Denise Crosby in it that was on Star Trek for a little while before they killed her off really early. Spoiler alert. Dusk Till Dawn, pretty good flick. I really enjoy that. This I've never watched. Ed Gein, which was, I guess, a movie about the serial killer Ed Gein. You guys could let me know if that's actually worth watching or whatever, but this is a former Blockbuster rental that was in that. And then I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I actually like these movies from around this time. A lot of them kind of seem like Scream ripoffs, but some of these better ones like this I really enjoyed. This one was actually based on, I think a treatment of this story was done by, the screenplay was done by Kevin Williamson, which is actually the guy that wrote Scream. So to me that kind of holds up a little better than some of the other ones, plus Jennifer Love Hewitt. Here's some kind of rarer tapes. This is Trilogy of Terror 2, which I'm a big fan of the original one, and there is kind of like a semi-sequel to the guy here, the Zuni Fetish doll. But this, I believe, only exists on VHS. These I tracked down not too long ago. Once I found out that this is actually House 3 and House 4, depending on where you're at. But this is the horror show, which ended up being House 3. This has Lance Hendrickson in it. And then here's House 4, very beat up copy. I don't really know why that's House 3 and House 4 or what happened. If you're ever curious, House 3 doesn't really exist in the United States. They just kind of skipped over and went to House 4. But the horror show is what is House 3 if you have that UK box set that has House 1 through 4. Here's some cool tapes. I used to love this show back in the 90s. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Sightings. This is the UFO one. They only did 3 of these tapes. Sightings Psychic Experience and Sightings Ghost Report. If you remember that show, definitely let me know, because I don't find that many people that know about it. The girl I was dating at the time, when that was really big, I actually got her some book that went with that, and I'd like to track that down at some point and read that. I think that would be pretty interesting. It's very dated, but still it's very cool. Okay, one of my favorite shows that has never made it to DVD officially is Monsters. And it was kind of like a semi-resurrection of Tales from the Dark Side. It's the same people working on it, with just a little bit different concept and more of a push to put people in rubber mask, creepy puppet type effects, things like that, and not just weird spin fantasy stories like you would occasionally get on Tales from the Dark Side. But yes, this is Monsters, only exists on VHS. This one has Fever Man and One Wolf's Family, Cellmates and the Demons, Reaper and Desirable Alien. This one has Debbie Harry in it, but these are pretty cool. Very, very corny, very cheesy. My Zombie Lover, All in a Day's Work. Outpost and Far Below. Jar and the Farmer's Daughter. These next tapes here are Freddy's Nightmares, which is another one of my favorite series that's really corny, really cheesy, doesn't hold up that well, but I get nostalgic for it, and the very, very first episode's very interesting because it's like a prequel to the movies. This is Freddy's Tricks and Treats, Dreams That Kill, It's My Party, and You'll Die If I Want You To. No More Mr. Nice Guy. This one I think is the one that actually has the original, kind of like prequel to what happened. It's very low budget. I mean, it's not as good. Here's a silk copy of Lucky Stiff, and I believe that encompasses all of the North America releases of Freddy's Nightmares. Okay, now we're going to get into some of my Clamshells. This is Midnight Hour that was put out by Anchor Bay. Very rare, yet very cool. Old TV movie that used to come on a lot in the early mid-'80s, and I used to think it was kind of spooky when I was a kid. Now when I see it, it's very corny, but yes, still a classic. It actually has LeVar Burton in it, Mr. Reading Rainbow, Geordie LaForge himself. Nightmares, which is another Anchor Bay. This is the hard clamshell. But yeah, a movie I talked about during Halloween. It's very cool and very hard to find. This is The Dark Crystal. This is a very cool one. This is one that my girlfriend in high school tracked down. She knew how much I loved this movie, and it was, at that time, pretty hard to find on VHS. I think it released after that around 95 or 96 in mass amounts. But at the time of this, she had to track it down, and I think she ordered it, and you know how hard it was to find things before the internet. So, yeah, Dark Crystal. And this one is the original version that is probably a rental or something like that, but that is the way it came. And here is my Anchor Bay version of Halloween, the original Halloween Video Treasures edition, and this one's actually sealed. Here's my Black Hole VHS. I think I've shown this before. This is the original puffy clamshell that Disney put out. There is another version of this that I don't have, that I believe it was put out for rental or for retail. I'm not for sure, but they changed the cover art. I'd like to get that at some point in the future. But yes, I have this one, and I do have the beta version of the puffy. Here's The Nightmare Before Christmas I got 100 years ago that, of course. Here's one that I'm proud of that's an old clamshell, very heavy clamshell, and this is when Carrie Fisher was on Saturday Night Live, and I think that's just a really cool artwork that they did there. It's kind of like a black and white photo that's been colorized of her dressed like Princess Leia. I've wanted this forever and ever and ever, and the first time I got an opportunity to get this, I bought it. I used to see that a lot in the video store, and I loved it. Here's one that's kind of a rare one that's about to be released, but this is the good times. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. For a long time, this was a very rare horror movie. Ghostbusters 2. You guys probably remember my Around the Town where I picked that up. Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. I picked this up just randomly. This is very bad television, but I may give this to my buddy Owen if he wants it. But not great by any means. Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. Matilda. This is a very beat up yellow clamshell, but I always liked Matilda. I think it's a great, funny classic. This is one that I picked up at a garage sale, and I thought it was Honey, We Shrunk the Kids, but it's Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. There's a bunch of these. I like Rick Moranis, so I'd like to eventually track those down. Muppet Classic Theater. This is another one I picked up at a garage sale, and I've heard that it's actually really funny, but I've never watched it. I need to, though. Six Fairy Tales Take a Wacky Twist. Kermit and Piggy. And then, of course, I have this, which is super rare now. This is one that was given out as a promotion. This is House of the Devil, Clamshell, VHS, along with slipcover DVD that was put out by Dark Sky Films and Gorgon Video on the VHS. Gorgon Video was not even making VHS anymore, and they basically came back and did this as a favor to the studio. Well, I'm sure they made money, but of course, you know, they weren't in the business of making VHS, and this was just a really cool promotional item to do. These, of course, were only given out in certain ways, but Amazon ended up getting the bulk of these that were left over, and you could buy this for like 20 or 30 bucks, and these go now for like 200. But I never opened mine. In fact, I have House of the Devil on Blu-ray, and that's what I actually watch. But I think that's a cool collectible. I really wish they would have done that for the movie VHS. They should have. Ty West got a really cool release on both of his previous movies leading up to VHS. They should have put that out on VHS. If they do, if you know about a promotional VHS copy of that that's available, not impossible to find, let me know. And last but not least, the tape everybody wants to see, but not really. I actually came across this, thought it was pretty funny. If you are familiar with my skit videos, you will know that this is Zombie Outbreak Volume 13 video, the zombie skit video, and I have no idea what's actually on that tape. It's just covered in different kinds of stickers that I did to profit for that skit. I have no real clue what's on this tape. I should probably watch it. But yes, okay, let's go ahead and I will stop there.